recording and we are ready to go.
All right, well, let's go ahead and kick off the Cuyahoga County Equity Commission meeting for January 14th, 2021. The time is 11:01. Want to begin by recognizing that Ted Carter, our chair, is unavailable today. So Ted has asked that I start the meeting off and I chair the meeting. My name is David Merriman. I'm the director of the Department of Health and Human Services, and I'm a member of the Equity Commission. Also going to state the obvious that I am out of the office today and calling in remotely, so I appreciate folks' patience as I use a remote connection here. And I think as we bring this meeting to order, what I would like to do is I would like to welcome all commission members. I want to thank you again for your time and your hard work. I think we have a good agenda. We're going to work our way through it. I'd like to begin, if we can, by a review and approval of the minutes. I think the minutes have been completed by the scribe, Anthony Thomas. Mr. Thomas, are you on the call?
Yes, I am.
All right. Have you presented the minutes to Cady Morales?
Yes, I have. Huh?
All right. I hope that everybody had a chance to review the minutes as completed by Mr. Thomas. Does anyone have any questions or amendments to the minutes? Cady, is there anything that needs to be reflected in the minutes that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of, just waiting for approval so we can post them online.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
David, this is Alex Pelham, motion to approve the minutes from December 17th.
Second.
Motion made and approved. All those in favor say aye.
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 All right, the minutes are approved. I'd like to follow through the agenda. Our next item is progress to date. I think what I'd like to do is have each of the commission members take a minute just to recognize anything going on within their departments, any updates that they would like to share. And I know that we will be talking in a few minutes about the equity report and as a document. I think this is going to be an agenda item, so I think you can save any equity report comments to that time. But I'm going to go ahead and first ask Alex Pelham if he would like to take a second, if there are components that he would like to reflect on.
David, thank you. First, it's good to be back. I missed a couple meetings out with surgery, so it's good to be back. Good to see the progress that this group keeps making. One of the things that we are starting on, we've worked with HR a little bit to build out the demographic baseline of our department, as we're not one of the pilot agencies, but we're going to continue to push things and to work and to proceed next year and this year. So what we've done is we're going to look at the breakdown of our department and start to look at policies. So that's something that HR was nice enough to help out with and pretty prompt with. And I believe it's important to see what's going on and to establish the baselines. If you can't measure it, you can't fix it.
Absolutely.
That's where we
are. Any questions for Alex from the commission? Alex, it's great to have you back. I do want to recognize Lindy Burt did an outstanding job representing your department in your absence. I think she's a great alternate, and we just really appreciate her participation and her carrying the work through. I do want to recognize, I believe Lenora Lockett has joined us and is here. I understood that Edwin was prepared to represent her, but did I see Lenora sign on?
Yes, I was able to sign on. Edwin is on, I believe, also. So, just making sure.
So I want the minutes to reflect that Lenora joined us, and that we have a quorum. That Lenora is here. Edwin was here at the start of the meeting and was representing, as well as Alex and myself. Lenora, I'd like to go to you next. If you have any status updates, we've just approved the minutes. We are going to be talking about the case report, the equity report, and gear membership. But are there other items that you'd like to talk about from within your department?
No, I pretty much summed it up in the report. We're just working on the next steps, which is the disparity study recommendations.
Okay. I neglected to recognize if Jesse Drucker joined the meeting. Jesse, are you on? Is there a status update you'd like to report on behalf of the
Yes, yes, let me just turn on my camera. Thank you, David. Yeah, I reviewed the case report and worked with Sheba Marshall to write our department's overview since we've been put on, since we've been put into the pilot. And we too are moving ahead on some of the items that are listed and preparing for some of the training component. I think what we'll probably have to do is have a side discussion on the nature of the training that's going to go on and how that's going to be delivered. So I thought that's an item that I wanted to set aside and have a discussion with you and with Leon and involve Deborah Johnson, my OED person. So I think that's an area that we can start to develop.
Yeah, absolutely, Jesse. I would also say that Brenda Riley from our office is our training manager, and she has a high level awareness of resources available from the state. So at the appropriate time, I'd also like to include her. And
Sure.
you know, we absolutely will support you and work with you to implement training.
Sure. And I'll put something together for the 4 of us next week, latter part of next week, and then we can move forward from there.
Sounds good. Cody, I understand that Ted Carter, well, first let me ask, do any commission members have any questions for Jesse or for HR?
And I have to recognize, and I'm sorry, Sheba, I apologize if this sounds like an afterthought, but it's not. I really have to recognize the work that Sheba Marshall has been doing on this project. She has represented this department extremely well and has been extremely participative in this process.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sheba. Cody, I don't recall if Ted Carter had submitted a report or any status updates that you would like to share on his behalf. I don't believe he has an alternate in attendance today to represent the Department of Development. Is there anything that you would share on behalf of Ted or Development?
I will wait until we talk about the report, but I think that will be the closest thing that we have to a status report right now, since we're focusing our efforts on making sure that we meet our deadline.
Great. All right, so then I think I'm last, and I'll go on behalf of the Department of Health and Human Services. And in a second, I'll cede my time, and I'll ask Leon Harris if he would care to make any comments. I first just want to recognize that you know, as Monday is Martin Luther King Day. I was having a conversation with someone, and I heard that, you know, they have to work Monday. And unfortunately, they work in a medical institution. They're not able to take the day off. I feel like we should be honored and grateful for the fact that we work in an organization that you know is able to afford us the opportunity to take that holiday, to enjoy that day, and to remember the day and the value of our experience. So I'm mindful of that. Let me ask Leon Harris. Leon, is there anything that you would share on behalf of the subcommittee that's working in the Department of Health and Human Services as an overall status update?
No, nothing that hasn't been shared with Cardi. We've submitted our draft just as everyone else has. We continue to be in contact with Cardi on a consultative or advisory basis. And you know, we're open to those conversations with anyone else as well. So that's where we are right now. If there are specific questions that someone might have, then I am open, and Sabrina Roberts as well as answering those.
And as Jesse had the ability to recognize the great work of Sheba, I also want to recognize the great work of Sabrina Roberts and Leon Harris. Especially, I'd just like to comment that Sabrina Roberts, in addition to doing the work that we're doing here, has really been doing an outstanding job leading the Department of Health and Human Services support of Align Systems responding to COVID. And I understand that, you know, they are separate and discrete efforts and initiatives. However, I think the work is clearly connected as we address racial disparities in COVID, as we support public health and their mission to respond to the pandemic. And so I want to take a second just to acknowledge Sabrina working very hard to you know, advance both projects simultaneously. I know she's on today, so thank you, Sabrina, for that. You know, I think before we move forward, I do want to check in. I understand there were some schedule conflicts. Were we able to have the county executive available for today's call? Is there anything that we have, Kadi, by way of a report from the county executive?
You've got him live.
Is he joined?
Right here.
There he is. Armand, as we prepare to move into the case report section, I want to just pause. Is there anything you'd like to share with us as we get into the meat of the agenda, a review of the case report, the status update on the equity report, and the GEAR membership? Any direction, any feedback that you'd like to share with us?
I'll just mention a couple things. We, as you know, I put out several executive orders designed to start the implementation of the disparity study recommendations. And I'm hoping that, and I've asked Greg Huth to break those down, basically give a summary to the department so that they can start doing the things that they need to do under the executive orders and the disparity study recommendations. Both your committee and the case committee have talked a lot about the need for additional training, and Jesse just talked about it. I have authorized going forward with an RFP to obtain the training provider or providers that we need for the county, so that should go forward. And the disparity study also recommended having a point person in the county with a staff, small staff, but a staff or a separate department, however we're going to do this. And we are starting to move forward with that as well, so that there will be within the county, for lack of I don't know whether it'll be a formal department, or I haven't talked to council about this yet, but we will have a department or something that's very close to a department to run this thing and coordinate all our efforts. It's a big job, and that's why the disparity study talked about needing a staff as well. So that's where we are right this moment.
I would say that our department, Armin, we have been in conversations about the executive orders daily since their release. There are many components and facets. I do think they're a bold statement, and it moves us forward. It's yet another action in you know, and I think in a very sustained way that I think is providing us guidance and direction about the vision of the county. So I think there is a lot of work to do, and I appreciate the partnership of Lenora Lockett and my other colleagues as we look to implement those items, especially the components as it relates to outreach to providers and creation of a capacity to do much more partnership with minority-owned businesses. So I think there's lots of work to do, but they're a great step forward.
Well, as you know, your leadership group for this committee and the leaders at the case both contributed to creating those executive orders, so thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Well, I think that's a great segue to the next agenda item, which is the case report. I know we're joined today by Laura Black on behalf of Nayla Bird. I think we should be mindful of the fact this is another huge step. I think there has been some exceptional progress between the release of the case report, the Citizens Advisory Council on Equity, as well as the executive orders. And so what I think it would be appropriate for us to do now is to pivot and provide Ms. Black a little bit of time to you know, share some feedback, any comments, and any direction you would like to on the case report. Laura, are you there?
I am here, and good morning. So as you're aware, the Citizens Advisory Council on Equity recently released their first status report, and it has since been provided to the County Executive Council as well as the public. So I did want to make sure that the public knows where they can access the report, and that can be found on the website at www.cuyahogacounty.us/fight-racism. So that's the county's website, Fight Racism. The CAC members will be discussing the report in more detail, as well as their plans for this year at a forum today, which is being hosted by the City Club. So the event starts at noon, and the panel will include Chair Taylor, Subcommittee Chairs Heidi Gullett and Stephen Cavanis, as well as member Habiba Grimes. To view that event, you can visit www.cityclub.org, and I will leave it there because more is to come, and the work of the CAC is just beginning.
Are there any questions for Laura or any feedback on the report?
David, this is Alex. I had a couple of things I wanted to say. You know, I thought this was a great job by the committee, and I know Ms. Bird and Ms. Black put a ton of time into helping facilitate this report get done. There was a lot to cover in one report in a couple months, and I think the beginning started. You know, one of the biggest takeaways that I had is, you know, I don't think everyone understands, and it helped me to further understand how things like health and healthcare, economic opportunity, the quality of life, and criminal justice are so intertwined that no matter, there is no silver bullet, there is no one way to fix these things, that it does take a systematic approach. And if it takes a systematic approach to fix it, it's clearly a systematic problem. You know, one gear moves, they all move. So I thought it was a great job. I thought it was a great job highlighting that, highlighting the importance of public transportation and how that affects the quality of life. I just thought it was a great job. The chart on page 46 was a work of genius or madness. I'm not sure which one it was, but well done. I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
I want to share in Alex's comments of gratitude. I think it is an enormous amount of work. It's a great initial entree into formally and effective. I do think, you know, I translate and to be presented to the community and to be, you know, digestible, if you will. And that's something that I'm very mindful of in our own work. And to me, it's an expectation that government is able to speak to the audience of the resident as well as to each other. And I feel like this report does that. I think there are great goals and recommendations. And in a minute, we're going to talk about what is, I think, understood to be the top initial recommendation, or one of the top initial recommendations is around training. Jesse alluded to that in terms of his understanding and charge that his team lead up the effort, but clearly it will have to be a broad team. We'll be talking about training in a second. I think there is also some discussion that needs to be had about the funds that the county executive has made available that have been added to our budget for the equity work to be done. Allocation of those dollars, being mindful of the expectations that OPD is given the staff and resources to implement their expectations, as well as that training is appropriately resourced. So if we're all available, I would love to encourage us to participate in that City Club event. It sounds like really another great step in trying to make the report accessible and understandable to the community. So I really appreciate the committee's work, the committee's work on this. The council's work.
So David, what struck me, I mean, the racial equity, diversity, and inclusion training is really important in the hope that it will change, that it will raise awareness and change mindsets. But I think that what struck me in the report was the creation of educational opportunities. with respect to creating some foundation that people can, that will bring people into these well-paying jobs, create open doors to permit people who have not before been able to enter into certain doorways because of the lack of education or perhaps even the lack of experience. So, I mean, I think that the county can be a leader, that this work will make the county a leader both in making educational opportunities available for people to move into well-paying jobs, but also looking at the very nature of the jobs that we have. And I think this will very well set an example, hopefully, for some major employers in the county, looking at the experience required for positions and equating experience and education. I think that we have over time put an emphasis on certain certain levels of education that may not be the only qualifier. And I think that employers have sort of used a college degree, for instance, as a benchmark, where that's not necessarily a requirement of the job. And I think that we can lead the effort to show employers in Cuyahoga County how experience is just as important as education. And we're in the process of, the county is in the process of looking at that.
Any other discussion on the case report? Laura, let me close with you. Anything that you would need from us at this time to support implementation of the recommendations? I know there will be ongoing discussions, and your participation in this commission is really valued and appreciated. Anything else that you're looking for at this time from us?
This time, I don't believe so, but thank you.
Okay.
We really appreciate the coordination.
Great. Well, I'd like us to move on then to the discussion of the equity report status. I understand that there is a timeline, there are expectations that early drafts are in development, documents have already been submitted. Let me ask Kadi if she could talk about where we stand with the equity report.
Yes, all the pilot agencies have submitted a status report of their work last week, Friday. We are in the middle of really drafting a first initial draft to present to our county exec by tomorrow, have our commissioners review also by next week. We would love to have a final draft completed by January 25th with the hopes of approving it, endorsing it on our next Equity Commission meeting scheduled for January 28th. So we are on track, and we look forward to really consolidating both recommendations from the Citizens Advisory Council on Equity and the Equity Commission to make an approach. I see nods on the screen. What did I misspeak? Oh, can you hear me? No, can't hear me? Hello? Testing, can you guys hear me now? No.
Quarterbacking this, getting the report together, and working with the department leads from each organization. As Leon reflected in the progress update, you know, we have a steering committee in DHHS, and so for us, it's a team effort led by Sabrina and Leon, and then representatives from each of our departments. Other departments are doing it differently. So I know that the equity report is moving forward. There are expectations, and I think everyone understands this is something that will be completed on time. I do also want to recognize there's an opportunity for each director, each commission member to lead their section with a report or a letter I heard from Ted Carter that Lenora Lockett wrote, included something that was really well written, and I think set the tone for her section, and I think also provided, just a connection to the staff that I know he appreciated. So I think Ted was making the suggestion, the recommendation that each of us think about leading the sections that our teams are developing with some sort of statement or letter. I think that's good advice. That's good advice. That's good direction, because I think this isn't just about the work; it's also about the people, and we should try to be mindful of that. So that's something that I'll be doing, and I think as we all see the draft, we'll see what Lenora has submitted, and I look forward to reading it, because I know that she put a lot of time and energy, and it came off well. So let me pause there and see if any of the commission members or our supporting staff members have any questions or comments. I do think there are some specific recommendations we'll be thinking about, and we'll still want to talk a bit about training, as well as the funding that's being made available, and how this report and our work supports decision making for the training and the funding. But let me open up discussion now. Does anybody have any additional comments or thoughts about the equity report?
David, not at this time.
Anything else from Jesse, Laura, or any of the other any other participants?
This is Lenora. I think it was a good first draft, a good start.
I agree. Yeah.
So, I think one of the main discussion items that we'll need folks to weigh in on and provide options to the commission to make good decisions is going to be around training. I think as we've already referenced or discussed, this is the top priority, and Armin has talked about releasing an RFP. I also know that there are some inherent resources in different departments, and some departments have begun this work. And I think, this is the right first step, and it's something that will really demand the attention and support of all of the county to move this forward. I for one, have participated in some training, but I need to recognize I haven't given it enough attention. I don't feel I'm to the point where I would like to be with my own knowledge and preparation. And I think on this point of training, I'd just like to see if there are any thoughts or any recommendations about next steps. And also, if anybody has any comments about what they feel has been, the value of completing any of the trainings.
Excuse me. So David, this is Leon. I think next steps are definitely, is a discussion that we should have as a group before bringing them to the public, before we finalize any decisions. As far as training, the benefit of it, I had an opportunity to participate in some racial equity training from Third Space Action Lab. It just touched on a lot of things, and I think, as we structure what our training model should look like here in Cuyahoga County, it's really important that we, that Jesse and others work together to identify, some of the things that we need to consider, because a lot of times as leadership, we become so narrow and focused on what's important in our particular offices or divisions. But this takes a holistic approach, and we really need to have a broad view or perspective of what's going on and what are some of the barriers that we may be experiencing, and some of the barriers that our residents and employees may be experiencing in regard to upward mobility, career progression, job access, healthcare access, housing access, all of those things. So I would say that training was definitely a benefit, and I think that it's a continuous process. Just because you have training one time doesn't mean that you know everything. I continue to learn through reading and attending other webinars. So, as much training and whether it's formal or informal as we can receive, I think that is only advantageous to us as Cuyahoga County.
Yeah, I think, just taking from that, I think that when this meeting that I was talking about before, I think that we need to, at least one substantial portion of it needs to be that we coalesce around some of the major topics that we want to put out in the training. And then I think the second portion of it is just the logistics of it. And the third portion of it is are there organizations that we know offer the type of training so we can throw out the RFP to them and get some quick responses on that. So I think we've got a full agenda on to discuss when we meet sometime next week.
Anybody else?
Lenore, I agree with all those principles. I think it's necessary. I think it needs to be continuous or repeated. It's not a one-shot, one-time training and then we don't do it anymore for a couple of years. It needs to be part of our process and orientation for employees and continue, almost like our annual ethics.
So, I mean, I'm not saying anything that anybody doesn't know, but we have the advantage through the learning management system of making something like this a mandatory annual training, and it's would be consistently available to all staff to take it and make it mandatory. So I guess we have a leg up on that. But I do think, however, that we need to do one major initiative to start to kick this thing off. So, we can talk about all of that.
David, I'll be short, but one of the things that I remember from it was a groundwater training I did a couple of years ago was just the presentation of issues that are there. I think we become so siloed in what affects us or what doesn't affect us that you don't start to see these things like infant mortality or suspension rates of kindergartners. It have a real impact on the way things go. And I think just bringing that to the forefront, especially in this initial, to start the conversation with some people is going to be exponentially valuable than any other thing we can really do.
I agree, Alex. Thank you for that comment.
Is there any other comments on the training or the equity reports status? I'm gonna check in, Kadi. Did we get you back? We're get Kadi included here.
I just tried calling through my phone. Can everyone hear me?
We can.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello, we're having technical issues in the streaming room. My apologies. And I'm just jumping in. Where can I fill in here, Director Merriman?
Well, we're just wrapping up the equity report, and we've just had some good discussion about the training. And in summary, I feel like there's a near consensus that the initial entree is really important, and I think we're going to schedule time to talk about how to start this work as an organization, recognizing that many individuals and many departments have already begun, but needing to have a common vision and a shared platform for us to all be working from. I do also just feel like there's at least some suggestion that we're referring to this as training, but really this is in some ways becoming curriculum, and it's going to be multifaceted with probably some reoccurring components, but also some initial investments of time and energy. And I feel very excited that we're at this stage. I think it is important for us to just comment, to have some awareness of we have been given resources. I believe there is $500,000 in the budget, and that money will support both the initial training as well as some of the staff needed from the Office of Procurement and Diversity to carry out their work. And we're not going to review an allocation plan at this time, but I do think we're going to have to spend some time together talking about how we're going to allocate those funds, and just be aware of the fact that resources are limited, and but we have the need to have this work extend over pretty much the duration of our time in our organizations in perpetuity. This is not something that's going to get resolved in this budget cycle or the next. So the 500,000 is a wonderful start. The work will continue. A last point that I would make in the discussion that I had with Ted Carter, there are foundations out there on the wings that are looking to support this work. And I do think we all should be thinking about how we develop relationships with foundations, and we leverage our dollars with theirs to be able to to carry our work forward. Would be important for us to be coordinated in that effort, so that we're not sort of approaching foundations in competition with each other, but that we are recognizing that they too want to see us succeed, and I believe would invest in us if asked. So that's I think there's a lot of discussion to come. I'm going to see if there are any final thoughts on the equity report and the status that we're at, and Kadi, if you can just once again remind us of the deadlines and expectations.
Thank you, Director Merriman. Yes, we are on track, and we have a goal of having a final draft ready for January 25th for the the Equity Commission to approve for the next meeting scheduled on January 28th. So I just want to echo what Director Merriman said. Definitely some common themes from both the recommendations found in the Citizens Advisory Council on Equity's report, as well as ours. So we're looking forward to really working together and making sure that we can have strong recommendations for this year and the next few years.
Wonderful. And ultimately alignment with the case report and the work they're doing. So I'm going to pivot us and move on now to our last agenda item, which is the GARE membership. First, I need to recognize that Catherine Tkachuk is not available today. Catherine has done some outstanding work navigating the process and getting us kicked off with GARE. I think this is a great resource. It's something that we've talked about now since 2020 as a goal, and we have it. So we are now a member of GARE. Kadi, can you just talk us through what that means and how that resource becomes available to us? I'd also like to give the county executive an opportunity to provide any feedback on GARE, because I saw it come out in his newsletters. But Kadi, can you give us some specifics first as to what the membership means and how staff can access it?
Yes, of course. This is a reminder. GARE stands for the Government Alliance that will provide Cuyahoga County employees, staff with access to tools and a network of partners that are all working on addressing issues of racial inequity in their communities. So as GARE members, we all have access to an online portal. You do have to sign up using your county email and complete a short 5-question form. And all this information should have been included in an email from In the Know from our communications team. So everyone should have access to the link and the calendar. They do have a monthly membership call on the 4th Monday of every month from 3 to 4:30 p.m. So there again in the email, there is a link that you can follow to register. They are also holding some rapid response stuff. Also an informational session link that will allow you to learn more about some of the resources that they offer and how you can better connect with the network. So we're really excited to be members. We thank Director Tkachuk and Ms. Roberts and Dr. Harris for all their work and really moving this forward. So now I think it comes to the heavy lifting, right? We need to be proactive about getting on the portal, making sure that we're in connections with other counties, other city agencies, to make sure that we can really benefit from what we have now. So thank you, and I welcome any questions.
Are there any questions for Kadi?
Hi, Cardi, this is Leon. I did have I do appreciate, I want to say I appreciate the executive for acknowledging Gare and his in the know communication. And my question to you, Cardi, was there any additional information that we can potentially put out to staff as we roll out Gare? Because I think them potentially not really understanding it and understanding the use of it, having a little more context and what Garrett can mean for them and how they can be involved may be helpful to staff across the county, um, in addition to what the executive has already communicated.
I think that's a great point. I think that's something that we should talk to both Director Wing and Ms. Daniels over on the assistance team, to have more of a formalized message of what it means and how we take advantage of the resource. But yes, noted. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
I do want to pause for a second. Leon and Sabrina, have you had the opportunity to sign up? I want to make sure that the staff that are in Health and Human Services that have a state email address are able to access GARE, and that it's not going to be a catch if you don't have a Cuyahoga County email address.
I signed up. Hi, David. Sabrina Roberts. I signed up last week. I haven't been approved yet. So I know there were some issues with the ending of our email addresses. I don't know if that not so quick turnaround is by virtue of a lot of people signing up, or if there's any kind of glitch. So I'll let you know when I'm approved.
And likewise on my end, I signed up as well, haven't been approved yet. I know the last discussion that we had with Chief Tkachuk was that she had reached out to GARE and had given them all of the endings of our emails to make sure that everyone would have access, and they assured her that it would be fixed in the interim. So signed up, but have not been approved at this time.
Well, I know that she did report, Catherine reported out that there's an overwhelming demand for GARE membership right now. I think it's a great problem to have. I'm glad that we're part of part of the movement to work together. So if this is just a matter of patience and things are going to work out, I think that's understandable. At the same time, Leah and Sabrina, I appreciate you following up and continuing practice to make sure that our staff wouldn't be frustrated and that we're able to communicate that there appears to be a delay, but we're working it out. Because I would hate to have folks now sign up and not be able to start to utilize the resource. I'd also just like to check in on I'd actually like to echo Leon's support for the executive and just recognize that there was a point that we had a foundation step forward and offer to help fund the membership to GARE. And, Armin sort of stepped up and said, no, we're going to pay for this. This is something that we need to do. And so Armin, I think we still have you. I just want to see if there's anything more that you'd like to share about participation in GARE, and or any other comments you have about any of the items that we've talked about so far.
No, I don't think I need to add anything. You've been doing a great job, and I think you've covered what I would have had to say, so thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions on the GARE membership at this time? All right, so I think we're at our final item, which is a discussion of next steps. First, I just want to recognize our next Equity Commission meeting is scheduled for January 28th. It's the meeting where we will be spending time talking about the equity report. Kadi, are there other items for the good of the order? Anything else, anything that I've forgotten that Ted asked me to talk about and, sort of slipped my agenda?
I think you covered all of it. Thank you. I would just ask if Mrs. Black, is there any date set yet for the next Citizens Advisory Council on Equity meeting?
Nothing has been confirmed at this time.
Okay, thank you. And then just remind everyone that we do have a City Club conversation to listen into today at noon.
Well, in the event that folks have not accounted for that time and want to take it, how about we give everyone back 14 minutes in their schedule. I'm borrowing Sabrina Roberts' language on this, and allow folks to try to get ahead maybe on some of their projects and hopefully be able to sign in and participate in the City Club event. Unless there are any final thoughts, any final questions from any of the board members, then I'm going to close the meeting. Can I get a motion to? Are there any final thoughts?
Only thought I have, David, is I really appreciate your efficiency in today's meeting. So thank you.
You got it.
Yes, very efficient, extremely so.
Well, we're all busy. Folks have a lot of writing to do on the equity report. A lot of short, hard writing. So I'm going to go around. Jesse, I'm sorry. I heard from Jesse. I heard from Leon, Lenora, Alex, Kadi. Final thoughts, or are we done?
Good. Much work to do. So I'm glad to be back. Glad to get going.
Welcome back. Yeah.
We're good to go. Thanks.
Hearing none, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you all. Have a great day. Have a wonderful
Thank
weekend.
you.
For your time.